My wife lied about a miscarriage just to keep me around, so I collected the evidence, filed for divorce, and watched her crumble alone. I'm a 30-year-old guy who thought he was about to become a father. I still remember that night like it's burned into my memory. The faint smell of lasagna in the oven, the soft hum of the dishwasher, and Claire standing in the kitchen with shaking hands. She looked pale but smiling, holding a little white stick. Her voice trembled as she said, "We're having a baby." I froze. My heart slammed against my ribs so hard I could barely breathe. I asked if she was sure, and she laughed through tears, showing me two faint pink lines. That tiny plastic stick became the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. I picked her up, spun her around, and we both cried, big, ugly, happy tears. From that moment, my entire life reoriented. I started reading every new dad article I could find. I stayed up late watching baby crib reviews, calculating budgets, mapping out a future that suddenly felt brighter than it ever had. Every paycheck, I put a little aside for diapers, strollers, and college, because that's what dads do, right? They prepare. Claire began making lists, baby names, nursery colors, what foods she could and couldn't eat. We argued playfully over names. She loved Ethan. I leaned toward Miles. Every night she'd lie on my chest whispering, "Can you imagine?" A little us running around this house. I could, and I wanted it more than anything. I even picked up extra shifts at work. I didn't mind being exhausted. I felt like I was building something worth every sleepless night. Back then, I truly believed this was the happiest chapter of our lives. But now, looking back, that night wasn't the beginning of a new life. It was the start of the slow death of everything I believed in. At first, I told myself the mood swings were normal. Pregnancy hormones, right? Every article I'd read warned me about emotional ups and downs, cravings, random bursts of tears. But something about Claire's shift felt different. It wasn't just moodiness. It was distance. She started locking the bedroom door when she showered. She'd fall asleep facing away from me, phone clutched tightly in her hand. When I tried to pull her close, she'd flinch and mumble, "I'm just tired, babe. It's the pregnancy." Her smile didn't reach her eyes anymore. I tried to be understanding. I'd bring her breakfast in bed, run her bubble baths, talk softly to her belly even though it was too early to feel anything. She'd watch me with this strange mix of guilt and impatience, like she wanted me to stop talking. Then she began skipping her prenatal appointments. She'd come home and say, "The doctor said everything's fine," but never showed me reports or ultrasound pictures. Once I offered to take the day off to go with her, and she snapped, "You don't trust me?" The way she said it made me feel small, like I'd just accused her of something awful when all I wanted was to be involved. Nights became quiet. Meals turned awkward. I'd sit at the table waiting for her to say something, anything. She'd scroll through her phone, pretending not to notice. One evening, as I watched her from across the living room, face lit by the glow of her phone, expression unreadable, I realized something was slipping away. Not just her affection, but her presence. I told myself it was just stress. That once we heard the baby's heartbeat, things would go back to normal, but deep down, I could already feel it. The warmth between us was fading, and I had no idea why. It was a Tuesday morning. Gray skies, slow traffic, the kind of day that just drags. I was halfway through a meeting when my phone buzzed. I glanced down, expecting a random notification. Instead, I saw a message from Claire that made my heart stop. "I lost the baby. Please don't come home yet." For a second, the words didn't register. I reread them over and over, hoping I'd misunderstood. But my chest caved in before my brain could even process it. I grabbed my keys, muttered something about an emergency, and sprinted out of the office. When I got home, the house was eerily silent, except for the sound of her sobbing. She was on the bathroom floor, wrapped in a towel, her face pale and streaked with tears. The air smelled faintly metallic, like blood and bleach. I dropped to my knees beside her, shaking, asking what happened. She just whispered, "It's gone." I couldn't save it. My body went numb. I pulled her close, holding her while she cried into my chest. I kept saying, "We'll get through this, okay? You're not alone." She nodded, but her eyes never met mine. I asked if she'd seen a doctor, and she said she'd already gone to the ER. They said it was early, so nothing to do now. Her tone was flat, emotionless, like she was reading from a script. I wanted to believe her, so I did. I told myself grief makes people shut down, that everyone mourns differently. That night, I sat alone in the dark nursery, the one I'd started painting sky blue just days earlier, and stared at the half-built crib. The silence was deafening. I didn't know it then, but the real loss hadn't happened in that bathroom. It was happening inside me, quietly, piece by piece. The days after the miscarriage blurred together. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that half-painted nursery, the tiny onesies still folded on the dresser. I kept thinking maybe it was my fault. Maybe I worked too much. Maybe I wasn't there enough. I replayed every argument we'd had, every sigh of frustration, every late night I stayed at the office instead of beside her. Grief turned into guilt, and guilt turned into something darker, shame. Claire barely spoke those first few days. She just stared at the TV, blank-faced, scrolling on her phone between commercials. I tried to reach her, asked if she wanted to talk, to see a counselor, to do something. She'd shrug, say, "What's there to talk about? It's over." A week later, I came home from work to find her dressed up, makeup on, perfume I hadn't smelled in months. She said she was meeting some friends for dinner, that she needed to feel normal again. I nodded, trying to be supportive, but something about the speed of her recovery twisted in my chest. I was still drowning, and she was already walking away from the wreckage. I spent that night alone, sitting in the nursery again, hands gripping the crib rail. The walls felt smaller somehow. I talked to the silence like maybe our baby could still hear me, told them I was sorry I couldn't protect them, that I would have done anything. Claire came home late, laughing on the phone, her voice light and careless. For a moment, I didn't even recognize her. That's when something cold settled in my gut. She wasn't grieving like I was. In fact, I wasn't sure she was grieving at all. It started with little things, things most people wouldn't notice. The kind of details that only become loud once your gut starts whispering that something's wrong. One evening, I was cleaning up the living room when I noticed the paperwork from her so-called ER visit wasn't anywhere in the pile of mail. No discharge papers, no hospital band, nothing. When I asked where she'd gone, she hesitated just long enough to make me uneasy. "I told you, the county hospital. They didn't give me anything." Her tone was sharp, defensive, like I'd accused her of a crime. I tried to brush it off, but the cracks kept showing. There were no prescriptions, no pain meds, no follow-up appointments on her calendar. When I gently suggested she see a doctor just to make sure everything's okay, she snapped, "Why can't you just let me grieve my way?" A few days later, I ran into one of her friends, Julia, at the grocery store. She smiled awkwardly and said, "I'm glad Claire got to relax that weekend." "You know, after everything..." My heart sank. "What weekend?" I asked. Julia froze, realizing she'd said too much. "Oh, the spa thing." "Never mind." She mumbled something about being late and rushed off, leaving me standing there frozen between confusion and dread. When I got home that night, Claire was asleep on the couch, her phone half tucked under her pillow. For a moment I considered checking it, just to quiet the storm inside me. But the screen wouldn't light up. She'd started using a passcode. That's when it hit me. The walls of the story she'd built didn't line up. The grief, the hospital, the timeline, none of it fit. And for the first time, a thought I couldn't ignore took root. What if there was never a miscarriage at all? It happened on a Friday night, one of those coincidences that feel almost staged by fate. Claire had rushed out, saying she was late for dinner with coworkers. I barely looked up from my laptop until I heard the faint vibration on the coffee table. Her phone. She'd forgotten it. For a long minute, I just stared at it. My heart pounded in my throat like it knew what was coming. I wasn't the type to snoop, or at least I never used to be. But something in me whispered, "Look," a notification lit up the screen. "A text from an unknown number. Did you tell him yet?" That single sentence hit like a hammer to the ribs. I froze, staring at it, waiting for another message. Seconds later, it came. "You said you'd end it weeks ago. What's going on?" I swear I stopped breathing. My fingers shook as I grabbed my phone and quickly snapped pictures. Every message, every timestamp. Then I forwarded the screenshots to my email just in case. My body felt detached, like I was watching someone else move through me. Another message came through before I could set her phone back down. "He's going to find out eventually. You can't fake this forever." I read it 3 times before the words truly sank in. Fake this. Fake what? The miscarriage? The pregnancy? My stomach twisted as I realized what those words could mean. By the time Claire came home, I was sitting on the couch pretending to watch TV, my heart racing behind a calm face. She kissed my cheek and asked if I'd eaten. I nodded, forcing a smile I didn't feel. That night, while she slept peacefully beside me, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, replaying those texts on a loop. For the first time, I wasn't grieving anymore. I was investigating. After that night, something in me switched off. The heartbreak was still there, but it hardened into focus. Cold, methodical, calculating. I wasn't her husband anymore. I was an observer collecting evidence. I started small. Every time she said she was working late, I'd jot down the date and time. It didn't take long to notice a pattern. The same 2 nights every week, always ending with her coming home freshly showered and smelling faintly of a man's cologne. I told myself I was imagining it, but my gut knew better. One morning, I found a restaurant receipt tucked in her purse, dinner for 2, a bottle of wine, and a signature that wasn't hers. I slipped it into an envelope, labeling it with the date. That became my routine, quiet documentation. Every lie got its own place in my growing collection of proof. When she left her laptop open one night, I installed a small backup program that synced her messages and files to a hidden drive. It felt wrong, but after everything she'd done, I needed the truth more than I needed peace of mind. The last step was a GPS tracker, small, magnetic, barely the size of a lighter. I attached it under her car's rear bumper one morning before work. It pinged locations straight to my phone. Over the next few weeks, I watched her movements like clockwork, the same office parking lot, then a mysterious detour to a quiet residential area miles away. I stopped asking her questions, stopped looking hurt, stopped showing emotion at all. Around her I was calm, polite even. But inside, I was documenting the slow unraveling of my marriage in real time. I didn't know what I'd find next, but deep down, I already knew I was chasing proof of something I'd never wanted to believe. The truth came to me on a quiet Sunday afternoon, the kind of stillness that makes every click of a mouse sound deafening. I was scrolling through the backup folder I'd created from her laptop when I noticed a set of deleted message threads buried deep in the archive. My hands trembled as I clicked one open. It was between Claire and a contact saved only as D. The earliest messages were flirty, harmless even, until I saw the one that made my stomach turn. He's asking questions again. I had to do something to make him stay. Then another reply from D. You didn't actually buy it from the pharmacy, right? I scrolled faster, eyes burning. No. It's one of those fake test kits from the site you showed me. It worked. He believes everything. My blood ran cold. Fake. She'd faked the pregnancy. Every tear, every embrace, every whisper about baby names, all of it a performance to keep me around after I'd caught her lying about late nights months earlier. The miscarriage wasn't tragedy. It was cover-up. There was more. A line that shattered whatever was left of me. I'll tell him soon, I just need time to end it cleanly. He's too suspicious lately. I sat there staring at the screen, feeling the room tilt. My ears rang with the sound of her voice echoing in my head. We're having a baby. Now I could hear the practiced tremor in her tone. The fake tears, the way she'd looked at me like she was checking to see if I bought it. I wanted to scream, to confront her, to destroy something. But instead, I just closed the laptop because now I didn't need to imagine. I knew. And knowing was somehow worse than anything I'd feared. When I finally closed the laptop that night, I wasn't the same man who'd opened it. Something inside me shut off. The part that begged for answers, for closure, for honesty. I didn't need confrontation anymore. I needed precision. From that moment, I played the role perfectly. I woke up early to make her coffee, asked about her work stress, even kissed her goodbye every morning. She'd smile, relieved, thinking maybe the tension between us was fading. In reality, I was documenting her every move. Every receipt went into a folder. Every screenshot had a timestamp. Every GPS pin was logged and backed up in cloud storage. My laptop became a vault of quiet betrayal, her words, her lies, her trail of deceit neatly organized into a roadmap for my exit. I started seeing a lawyer during my lunch breaks. We met at a small cafe across from the courthouse, away from any chance of being seen. I told him everything, showing proof piece by piece. He looked at me for a long moment before saying, "You're handling this better than most." I just nodded. Because the truth was, I didn't feel anything at all. Back home, Claire started noticing my calmness, and it terrified her. She'd glance at me while cooking, searching for signs of anger or affection. "You've been quiet lately," she'd say, forcing a laugh. "You okay?" I'd smile, reply, "Yeah, just tired." But she knew something was different. My silence was too controlled, too still. Her eyes followed me everywhere, her voice cracking when I didn't respond the way she expected. She couldn't tell what I knew. And that was the point. Because I wasn't planning to argue or beg this time, I was planning to end it. Perfectly. It started with small, harmless questions. Ones I knew she couldn't answer. Over dinner one night, I casually asked, "Hey, which hospital did you say it was again?" I was thinking about sending a thank you note to the staff. Her fork froze halfway to her mouth. I don't remember the name," she muttered. It was all such a blur. I nodded like I believed her, sipping my water. "Strange," I said softly, "because the ERs around here always send discharge reports." That night, she didn't sleep. I could hear her pacing in the hallway, whispering on the phone, her voice shaking. The next morning, she slammed a mug down on the counter so hard it cracked. "Why can't you just let it go?" she snapped, eyes wide and red. "You think I wanted this to happen?" I looked at her for a long time, letting the silence stretch. "No," I said finally, calm as ice. "I just wanted to understand." She flinched at the tone. No emotion, no plea, no guilt. Just steady detachment, and that scared her more than yelling ever could. Over the next few days, she spiraled. She'd forget details, contradict herself, overcompensate with fake tears. Every lie she'd built started caving in under its own weight. Meanwhile, I kept smiling, doing the dishes, folding laundry, humming softly like nothing was wrong, but inside I could feel it, the balance shifting. For the first time, she was the one walking on eggshells. Her voice trembled when she spoke. Her eyes darted to my face, trying to read what I knew. She was suffocating in her own story, and I didn't have to lift a finger. Because the truth has a funny way of doing the dirty work for you. Friday nights had become her favorite excuse. Team dinner, late meeting, client drinks. I'd stopped asking questions, at least out loud. But that night, something in me said go. Maybe it was instinct, or maybe I just needed to see it with my own eyes. I waited until she left, then followed at a distance. Her car's GPS pings led me straight across town to a quiet neighborhood. Not a restaurant, not an office. Just a small, dimly lit house with a black SUV parked out front. She got out, fixed her hair in the reflection of her window, and smiled in a way I hadn't seen in months. A man stepped out of the SUV, tall, confident, familiar. My stomach dropped when I realized it was the same face I'd seen in the background of her deleted photos, the same name that matched the contact D. They hugged like lovers who hadn't seen each other in years. His hands lingered on her waist. She kissed him. Slow, unashamed. I recorded everything from across the street, my hands steady, my heart disturbingly calm. I waited until they went inside, then walked back to my car in silence. No music, no tears, no rage. Just this hollow, ringing numbness in my chest, like my body had already accepted that the man she was with had been there all along, and I'd been the stranger in my own marriage. When I got home, I uploaded the footage to a private drive and sent it straight to my lawyer with one line attached. This should be enough. I sat in the dark afterward, staring at the empty side of the bed where she used to sleep, realizing there was nothing left in me to break anymore. This wasn't heartbreak. It was the funeral of the version of me that still believed her. For the next week, I played the role of a man rebuilding his marriage. I brought Claire flowers, her favorite lilies, and she blinked in surprise when I handed them to her. "What's this for?" she asked, smiling cautiously. I shrugged. "Just because." She softened, relief washing over her face like a woman who believed she'd finally escaped the storm. She started humming again while cooking, leaving her phone on the counter like she wanted me to notice her newfound transparency. I matched her energy perfectly, joked at breakfast, texted her sweet nothings during the day, even kissed her before bed. To her, it must have felt like we'd turned a corner. To me, it felt like closing credits. Each morning, I'd step into my office, open my inbox, and find updates from my lawyer. Divorce papers finalized, evidence archived, timelines confirmed. Every message brought a strange sense of peace, not joy, not revenge, just completion. I'd walk past her humming in the kitchen, and for the first time I saw her clearly. Not the woman I thought I loved, but the one who performed love when it served her. She still had no idea that every word, every smile, every fake moment of affection was being measured against the end that was already written. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't sad. I was empty. But in that emptiness, there was control, because when someone plays you long enough, you eventually learn the rules of their game, and then you play it better. She thought she'd won. But she had no idea the storm was already on her calendar. Her birthday morning arrived like the quiet before a storm, sunlight streaming through the curtains, the smell of pancakes in the air, and the faint hum of her favorite playlist drifting from the kitchen. She was in a good mood, humming as she cooked, unaware that the day she'd been waiting for would be the day everything fell apart. I walked in, holding a small white envelope. She turned, smiling. "You got me a card?" she teased. I smiled back, calm and polite. Something like that. She opened it right there at the counter, still wearing that smug, soft grin, until her eyes froze on the first page. Her breath hitched. The color drained from her face. What is this?" "Divorce papers," I said simply. My voice was steady, almost gentle. "Everything you've done, every lie, every message, every fake tear, it's all in there." I made sure of it. She started shaking, flipping through the attached documents, screenshots, photos, GPS logs, even the texts she thought she'd deleted. Her hands trembled so badly she dropped the stack onto the floor. "Please," she whispered. "Please, I didn't want to lose you. I thought if I could make you stay, I could fix us." I watched her collapse onto the chair, sobbing, clutching her hair. For years, I'd seen her turn tears into weapons. But this time, there was no manipulation left, just panic. Just the hollow sound of someone watching their lies catch fire. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I just said, "You already lost me the moment you decided to lie," and turned to leave. Behind me, she broke down completely, her sobs echoing off the walls of a house built on deceit. For the first time in months, my footsteps felt light. Months passed. The dust settled, but the echoes of what happened carried through our small circle of friends like smoke that wouldn't fade. Word spread fast, not because I told anyone, but because truth has a way of leaking through the cracks people try so hard to seal. Her affair partner dumped her barely 2 weeks after the divorce papers landed. From what I heard, he didn't want the drama. He moved on, left her stranded with the very lies she'd built to keep both of us. Mutual friends who once admired her pulled away quietly. Group chats went silent when her name came up. Invitations stopped coming. People began whispering words like crazy and unstable. I didn't celebrate it, but I won't lie. There was something deeply satisfying about watching the universe take its course. Karma didn't roar. It just worked quietly, efficiently. She lost her job soon after. HR cited performance concerns, but I knew it was more than that. She'd stopped showing up regularly, sending erratic messages in the middle of the night, trying to find someone to blame. The confident woman who once controlled every room now avoided everyone. Meanwhile, my life took a different turn. Therapy helped me breathe again. The gym became my church, every rep burning away another ounce of resentment. I started visiting my parents on weekends, cooking with my sister, laughing again without guilt. For the first time in years, I wasn't walking on eggshells. I wasn't waiting for the next lie. I was just existing, and it felt new. Claire's fall wasn't loud or cinematic. It was slow, quiet, inevitable. Like watching a tower crumble under the weight of its own foundation. And standing there, watching from a distance, I realized I didn't need revenge. The truth had done it for me. It came on a quiet Sunday morning, the kind that smells like coffee and rain. I was going through emails, paying bills, deleting spam, when I saw her name sitting there in bold. Claire. For a moment, my breath caught. I hovered over the subject line. "Please read this." Against my better judgment, I opened it. "I'm sorry," she wrote. "I just didn't know how to live without you. Everything I did was out of fear. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but please, tell me you don't hate me." I stared at the words, waiting for the ache to return, that familiar pull in my chest, the flood of memories, the guilt, the anger. But there was nothing. Just quiet. Her words felt like a voice from another lifetime. The woman who'd lied, cried, and twisted reality until I couldn't trust my own thoughts was now asking for mercy from the man she'd broken. I didn't type a single word back. I didn't need to. I just hovered over delete, clicked it, and watched her message disappear, like closing the final door to a house I'd already moved out of. For years, I thought closure came from conversations, from why and how and I'm sorry. But I finally understood something. Some people don't deserve closure. They deserve silence. I wasn't cold. I wasn't cruel. I was free. As I shut my laptop, a strange peace settled over me. Not the dramatic kind, just quiet, steady calm. I didn't win because she fell apart. I won because I finally stopped trying to fix something that was never real. It's been almost a year now, and sometimes I still catch myself waiting for the old version of me to walk through the door. The one who thought love could fix everything, who believed that effort could rewrite someone else's truth. But that man's gone. These days, I wake up to sunlight pouring through the windows of my new apartment. No tension, no tiptoeing around moods, no wondering which version of her I'd get that day. Just quiet. Just peace. My walls are bare, but they're mine. I cook my own meals, blast music when I want, sleep diagonally across the bed because no one's there to complain. I started journaling again. Going to therapy. I even adopted a dog, something Claire never wanted because it would mess up the schedule. Now my evenings are filled with long walks and simple routines that don't need to impress anyone. Sometimes, I think about her. Not with anger, just distance. Like remembering a movie I once watched too many times, hoping for a different ending that never came. When people ask what happened, I just say, I outgrew chaos. It's the simplest truth I've ever told. If you asked me a year ago what I wanted, I'd have said revenge to make her feel what I felt, to see her crumble the way I did. But now I know better. I thought I needed revenge. I thought I needed her to suffer. But what I really needed was the truth. Peace didn't come from watching her fall apart. It came from finally walking away and never looking back. And maybe that's the lesson I was meant to learn all along. Sometimes, karma doesn't need help. It just needs patience. Because right now I'm not angry. I'm not broken, I'm free. And peace looks really good on me.